for a quick rant. We're going to talk about church attendance, and we're going to talk about sports and whether or not, as a believer, you should let your kids skip church in order to be involved in sports. So I'm going to go and cut to the chase. I'm going to say the answer is no. If sports are going to interfere with church attendance, for us, it is a hard, fast no. We're not going to be there. We're not going to be involved. Our place on Sundays and Wednesday nights is we are going to be in church. So I understand that that's a controversial position, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me. But I think it's something we really need to be thinking about. We need to think about, where does our commitment truly lie? Why is church even important? The other thing we got to be asking is, what's going on at church? Is church that boring that we are just okay with missing? And if so, why is that? Because I'm telling you, I've read through the book of Acts multiple times. When they were gathering together with the believers, when they were devoting themselves to teaching the word of God, it was anything but boring. You know, you had people falling out of windows, and then Paul praying for them and bringing them back to life. You had, all sorts of things happening. Pardon any screams you may hear. We were in the backyard, kids were playing capture the flag. Anyway, so this comes up because we are in the middle of sports right now, and the sports we have chosen to play do not interfere with our church schedule just Wednesday nights and Sundays. They don't interfere. But we had a coach contact all the parents saying, hey, listen, we have a chance to play in a tournament on a weekend, so Saturday and Sunday. Who's in? And for us, it's like, nope, sorry, we have church, we're out. And knowing the community we're in, we live in Tennessee, and we have a major Christian college here in our town. We have the Church of God headquarters in our town. It is a very, very churchy town. We have churches everywhere. You would really, really think that more people would have said, sorry, coach, can't play. But we were the only ones. And I was really amazed. It's like, is there that many people willing to skip out on church in order to play sports? And I mean, really, the answer is yes. I mean, we see it all the time between travel ball and all-stars. It's like all the time. It's like, okay, you hear about games on Sundays, weekend tournaments, and stuff like that. So that's the question. How do you feel about it? Are you okay with your kids missing church? And the next question, if you're okay with it, well why? Church is a really important aspect in the life of a believer. Church is a place that we are to go to learn about the Bible. We are to use our gifts in the church to serve, to worship the Lord. There's our two pups. Anyway, church is very important in the life of the believer. And while our Christianity, while our salvation is not yes, Scout, you are very precious, but don't watch out. It'll be distracting. While the Bible does not say that your salvation is dependent upon going to church, it does say that do not neglect the assembling of yourself together. Basically, keep going to church, because some people are already in the habit of not going, but don't do that. Instead, you should meet together even more so. And all through the book of Acts, it's talking about, hey, they were meeting together. They were going over the teachings from Jesus' teachings, from the disciples' teachings. And so it has that understanding of you're going. When Paul would write the letters to these different churches, he was writing them to different churches. So they're already assuming that, hey, you're going to church. It's very, very important. And when we are skipping out on church and saying, hey, yeah, let's go ahead, let's play that baseball game, let's play that softball game, yeah, go ahead and go to that soccer game, we're kind of starting to send a message to our kids that it's okay to skip out on church and do sports instead. And that's a really dangerous thing, because inevitably, I think it's not hard to imagine that eventually they're going to realize that they're going to get that message that sports are more important, that church isn't as important as our commitment to sports. And that's really what it gets down to. Are you more committed to sports, or are you more committed to the Lord? And I want you to think about that today. Like I said, I was surprised just because of, like I said, the area that we live in. I thought there might be a couple other people who'd be like, nope, sorry, we have church, we can't do it. But no, everybody's like, no, we don't mind. And the second thing is, what type of church are you going to? Like I said, church should be the place to be on Sunday. I know for us, we don't want to miss church on Sunday. And yes, I understand you have the online option. You have so many different, you can listen to it on podcasts later, but that's not the point of church, right? We are to be meeting together. There are some other ministries that we follow throughout the week that, that we listen to. And they're packed. But why are they packed? because the presence of God is there, the power of God is there. You know, people are being healed of cancer, people are getting up out of wheelchairs. And honestly, that's what I want my kids to be around. I don't want, you know, it's like, yes, playing sports is a lot of fun. I want my kids involved in sports. But to do that at the expense of their Christian formation, absolutely not. And yes, what we do at home matters, but also letting them know that being in church is important. I got a bug on my forehead. These bugs are everywhere right now. Anyway, but being at church is important. Being involved in church. I'm not saying just go to sit in the pew, because I mean you can go to church and still be a, you know, hellion in essence. I grew up going to church, I know. So it's not just about that, but I'm talking about going to church, being involved, praising, worshiping. Those things are really important. You know, growing up in Alabama, people did not miss Alabama or Auburn football games, depending on what side of the fence you were on. For my family, it was Alabama games. We did not miss Alabama games. We were always, you know, at home for game time so we could watch the games. If we weren't home just yet, it was on the radio. Like, that was one of those things you did not miss. And really, we need to start looking at church like that. It needs to be the place to go. And that's not just something for regular old Joes, regular people. That's also something for church leaders to think about. You know, is your church a place where people want to be on Sundays, or is it a place they want to skip? Okay? Church should be a place where the power of God and the presence of God is present and tangible. It should be a place where people go in and they leave changed, they leave encouraged, they leave ready to go in the world for Christ. Okay, I never want it to be said of me that somebody from a different religion has more commitment than me. I never want it to be said that, you know, that people from different sports or whatever have more of a commitment than my relationship with Christ. So that's what I want you to think about today. Who are you committed to? Who are you all in for? Like I said, maybe you disagree with me on that one. But if so, like I said, pray about it. You know, see where the Lord leads you. And find a church that you want to go to, right? Find a church where the power of God and the presence of God is there. Find a church where your kids want to be involved in, not just for the sake of, you know, events. I'm not saying, you know, they have to have a water slide baptismal pool type thing. No, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking once again about the place where the Word of God is preached, where you can feel His presence there with you, where His power is there, where people are changed. That's what I'm talking about. Find a place like that to get involved in. Sports are great. They have a time and a place, absolutely, but never let that come between you and your relationship with the Lord. All right, that's it. I'm going to go put on some more bug spray, and we'll catch up later. Bye.